Chaka, when the walls fell.
Jesus Christ.
Everybody.
Wow.
Welcome back to the Geeks and Company.
Do you see what I have to put up with? Do you see this?
Thanks for checking us out, folks. If you haven't watched, listen, before we get started, if you haven't watched this week's episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, make sure you go watch it because this is a good one this week. Very heavy episode this week. But go watch it. Come back. This is your spoiler warning. This is your only one. But when you do come back, make sure you click that like and subscribe button. It really, really helps us out. Costs you absolutely nothing. And it'll always make sure you get notified every time we upload a new video. My co-hosts, Aka, are also known as Messiah Complex
Aka.
Cosplay.
No, I'm good with Aka. Let's do Aka. I'm doing well. Yeah, doing very well. Really, really liked this week's episode. We talked about it before. We wanted kind of a bit of a deeper dive on Mbenga's past. And this kind of came at a weird, not a weird time, but kind of a cool time. Like, he's still already a badass in the flashbacks, and he's still kind of already moved over to being a doctor, but it looks like he's kind of just moved over to being a doctor from being. So we still don't really get a really deep glimpse into how and why Mbenga was a badass, but we do get a very clear and concise look at what he was doing during the latter stages of the Klingon War, in a very cool episode that had usually I hate an episode that's got like regular concurrent timeline and then flashbacks, but this was melded and seamless. It was done so well, and the flashback scenes really look so amazingly good. Yeah, this felt different to me, especially in the flashback scenes, than episode 4 when they're on the ice planet and looked like they were walking on a set, or looked like very much they were using the volume. The set for this one and the flashback scenes when they're on whatever planet they're on during the war looked flawless. Like Jagal, thank you. Looked really, really good. Like, I didn't get pulled out thinking, oh, we're just on a set. The whole time I'm buying into exactly what we're seeing. And yeah, just watching that happen. There's a great cameo in this episode. This is just a really, really solid episode. And like you said, deep, hard hitting, and by the way, we're going to talk about it too. Very controversial. The entire Star Trek community is talking about the ending of this episode, and people are taking sides, and we're going to have to address it because something very interesting happens at the end of this, and it's left deliberately ambiguous. Not what happens, but how it happens. And people are definitely picking sides on this issue.
So for those that are maybe not as familiar with Star Trek lore, there was a big giant war between the Klingons and the Federation, aptly started by our good friend Burnham. Michael Burnham started a massive war with the Klingons that killed millions of people.
And by the way, in that particular flashback, they do show the Discovery era Klingons. They literally show clips from Discovery. So for those of you that were thinking they were just wiping out the Klingons that appeared in Discovery, no, they incorporate them 100%. This is all one. Yeah. This is the same timeline as Discovery, guys. The same era of Trek. So,
and it was a good way to tackle hatred and racism and all that jazz. It was very poignant how they used Mbenga specifically for this, because he's black. And he's the one with the hatred. He's the one that wants to kill them. He's the one that's the racist one. And when the Klingon comes on board and he has that panic attack, I thought I was having a panic attack. Like, it was so fucking like it was so well done. Like, the emotions that he was going through were fucking ripping at me. Like, it was insane.
And Chapel was rarely
seen an episode. Yeah, Chapel's great too.
Well, Chapel for us really is, again, she's the audience, because she went through it with Mbenga, but Mbenga can't articulate it. He can't talk about what's going on. And Christine, who went through, you'll when you watch this episode, hopefully you've already watched it, she's with him every step of the way on Jagal. She witnessed this. She saw all this. She says it right to Spock, because her and Spock definitely have difficulties because of this, because he sees that she's broken, that this Ambassador Ra coming aboard has broken her. He wants to try to fix her in his very logical Vulcan way. And she's like, I can't even describe to you how this feels, because if you haven't been there, if you haven't experienced it, you don't know, and you'll never know. You can't understand. You can't know. So because Mbenga is so tight, and so reserved. There's only one point in this whole episode where he even raises his voice, or it shows like a real kind of range of emotion. Christine's the one to kind of let us all know what's happening in both of their heads. And we needed that. And I'm glad that in the flashback, she's there with them, going through the whole thing with him as they're trying to essentially triage. That's what they were doing. They were doing emergency triage on figure out literally who's going to live and who's going to die. So
yeah,
man, oh man, what a power packed episode. And then just everybody supporting that cast was great. And the guy that was playing Ambassador Ra, by the way,
he was amazing.
Robert Wisdom as Ambassador Ra, very, very, very well done. Wow, yeah, what a fantastic job he did.
Yeah, he was amazing. I particularly liked how it really deepened that. Well, for one, relationship between Mbenga and Chapel. Right, we know now that it's not just a nurse and a doctor. Right,
no, they went through the shit.
They literally went to war together.
Yep.
Right,
yep. And I even like how at the end of the day, it turns out that he did lie. It turns out that he was a lying McLie face, but but his redemption, I guess you would say, or his, what's the word I'm looking for? He was still sincere in wanting peace. He was still sincere in trying to be a better person. He just used an event, created a lie around that event in a very unklingon way, by the way. He took credit for kills that weren't his kills. And utilize that to begin to forge this peace. He even says, listen, if you tell everybody my lie, that I killed my own generals to get out of where I was, if you tell everybody that you killed them instead of me, Mbenga, you're going to undo everything that's come to pass in this peace process up until now. And Mbenga is like, I don't really know if I really give a shit if I undo all this stuff. And at the end of the day, I guess it doesn't really matter because the whole conflict gets solved on the point of a Klingon dagger. So...
Well, I mean, we do find out that the Butcher of Jagal is not Ra, but Mbenga.
Yeah, it sure is.
Mbenga is the Butcher of Jagal. And Mbenga is the one at the end who gets sent to go kill Ra and slaughters, like massacres his whole crew,
which
with the dagger.
Yes, using Protocol 12, by the way, which we saw in episode 2 this season. Him and Christine take this concoction that we had assumed we had seen before, but we had not. They take this concoction, which apparently is just basically mostly adrenaline and pain inhibitors, and it just lets them just be ultimate badasses. So in this episode, we find out it's something that Mbenga created, already has. One of the special forces guys is asking him for it, and Mbenga's like, no, that time has passed. That's what I mean. We're still picking up in the latter part of Mbenga's journey. We're not getting all the stuff before that led to this.
Yeah, there's more to come for sure. There's definitely a lot more to come.
Who we met sort of in this episode was actually Christine. So we meet Chapel. We get to see Chapel's first interaction with Mbenga on Jagal, acting as the essentially head nurse. Yeah. She becomes the head nurse as she shows up for triage. By the way, who's running the triage on Jagal?
I forget his name now.
Clint fucking Howard. What an amazing cameo guest star. Clint Howard was on the original series. He played like a young child on the original series. He is Ron Howard's brother, Opie, right? His brother, has been a character actor literally for decades. He's been in everything, but including Star Trek. And now he's been in, I think, all but 3 different iterations of Trek as far as that goes. So having him there, and actually like in a fairly meaty talking role on the episode, I thought was just a great nod without having an actual, like, this is a throwback character. It's like, no, we just got a throwback actor to play this guy.
Do we want to talk about the ending?
We have to. Like I said, it's become very controversial. In the end, once Mbenga learns of Ra's deceit, that it was not Ra that killed all his own men. I shouldn't say that. Mbenga already knows. Mbenga takes Ra to task. Mbenga asks Ra, which of your men fought the hardest? Which of your captains or generals fought the hardest when you were killing your own men to escape? And he says, oh, Captain so-and-so. And Mbenga's like, no, it wasn't him. It was this other guy. I know, because I fucking killed them. And then he's got a
Mhm.
very old Starfleet medical case there that has a Klingon knife in it. I don't remember what the knife is called. There's a name for it, but it's the standard knife, very Star Trek 3
With
knife, has
yeah.
the twin blades in the bottom. And there is, but Ra won't let it go. By the way, the whole time this conversation is happening, Mbenga is telling Ra, leave me alone. Get out of my sick bay. Stop talking to me. I'm not looking to bridge any gaps here. Get the fuck away from me. Literally says, get away from me. Leave me alone. Tells him that a few times. Ra's having none of it. Grabs Mbenga. I shouldn't say grabs. Puts his hand on Mbenga's shoulder. And then the scene cuts. Christine comes in, and behind a piece of frosted glass, so you can just make it out, you hear a struggle. You kind of see some shapes moving. And then the next shot is a live shot of the knife quiveringly stuck in Ambassador Ra's chest, having killed him instantly, I guess.
But
So
anyway,
this
yeah,
ending has sparked a huge bit of controversy
mhm.
within the Star Trek world. Did Mbenga literally kill it? Like, did Mbenga, even though Mbenga saying, like, leave me alone, get away from me, did Mbenga take the knife out and stab him intentionally? Did Ra make a play for the blade somehow? And there was a scuffle. Is Mbenga essentially a cold-hearted killer? Because he tells Pike in sickbay, there was a struggle, and this is kind of how it happened, almost accidentally. But did it? Did Mbenga and Christine lying to Pike in Pike's office about what really happened? Because Christine says, I walked in, I saw the whole thing. Super not what happened. Very much not what she did not walk in and see the whole thing.
No,
She
not
saw
only
what
did
we
she not
saw.
yeah.
So what
Not
is
only did
your
she not see the
opinion?
whole thing.
Are we getting a glimpse of why Mbenga is not the CMO come
Yeah,
Kirk's
I think
Enterprise?
so. Because not only is she not did she not see the whole thing, but she says that Ra, it was Ra's dagger, right?
Right.
Because it had the blood of the other
Oh,
Klingons
that's
that
right.
died on Jagal,
That's right.
right?
That Ra took
She
credit
says it
for.
was clearly the dagger of the butcher of Jagal. So
That's right.
he was clearly there to kill Mbenga with the dagger,
Yeah.
right?
So they lie to Pike. And by the way, did you get this? So they have the meeting in Pike's office, and then Pike goes to talk to
Pike
Mbenga
knows.
in the medical bay. And
Yeah.
of course he knows. He's like, we've known each other
Yeah.
for a long time. And Mbenga's like, yeah, we sure do. This is my story, though, and I'm sticking to it. And Chris is like, you can see he literally like puts his head down and just walks out of the sick bay. Like, what am I going to do? Like, this is enough things corroborate his story that the story's going to stick. But we both know you're full of shit. So what really happened here? But it's not like Ra with his walking stick was this feeble old man. He was going hand to hand combat with Mbenga earlier in the episode and holding his own and actually coming on top in most of the exchanges. So
Mm-hmm.
is Mbenga a piece of shit? Is he a bad dude that killed a dude because of PTSD? And by the way, this was a really, we keep dancing around it. This was a PTSD episode, and it showed the effects of PTSD on people. That's what this episode was really about, and it did a fantastic job of showing you
Yeah.
the effects of what war is hell, boy. There's no question there,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what this is. So, your opinion? Did Mbenga Does Mbenga, like Ra puts his hand, does Mbenga just grab the knife and stab and kill him? Is that what happens? Or is there truly a struggle and this is a happenstance or a circumstance? Do they fight over the knife and Mbenga just comes out on top?
I don't think there's a struggle per se, because we know Ra is there and he's on top of Mbenga because he wants Mbenga to be his voice, right? He wants
Shadich.
Mbenga to vouch for him. He wants him to come to his next conference. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like he sees Mbenga as, this is my chance to get an in with the Federation with Mbenga, right? So I don't think Raw was there to attack or antagonize. He was just genuinely trying to tell Mbenga, look, like me and you, we're more the same than you think. If we can find a way to work together, we can do great things, right? Um, does that make Mbenga a piece of shit? I mean, it makes him a murderer. We
That's
know
what I'm
he's a
saying.
murderer,
So you don't
right?
think
We
there was a
know.
struggle? You don't like when Ra puts his hand on Mbenga's shoulder and Mbenga just grabs the knife, turns around and stabs him in the chest. Because there is a bit of dialogue back and forth of the frosted glass scene. It's not like he just turns and stabs him and he dies. there's like a no, don't, like there is a bit of a scuffle and there is a bit of a back and forth dialogue.
Either way,
Hopefully that
I
goes
don't
in
feel
real
like
good
it
here.
really matters too much how it went down, as much as they told us that, I think the point of the episode was to tell us Mbenga is not just a doctor, right? Mbenga's did some bad shit, and he's still capable of doing some bad shit. And I feel like that's where this episode took us. I mean, clearly he's not going to stay the chief medical officer forever. So does this play into that? I don't know. All I know is that he's still a very interesting character, even though now it feels like maybe there's other stuff, right? Like, are there other crazy shit that he's done that,
Oh, almost assuredly.
that
He
maybe, like, is he
created
Section
the
31? Like,
well,
could he actually
I
be
hope
Section
he's
31?
not. I'm not gonna lie. I really hope he's not, but at the very least, he's still somebody that they entrusted to make this Protocol 12, and that they clearly sent him out on similar missions prior to what we saw in Jagal. Like he had all the skills and training to be a really real, like the guy's just walking through elite Klingon guards of the war general of the
Generals.
Klingons at the time. Like
Yeah.
he's just walking those dudes. So
The top Klingon
clearly
generals, and he's
he
just
is
decapitating them.
an utter badass. He had to come about those skills somehow. So I don't know if
Mhm.
it was. Oh, by the way, I don't. You know what? I don't think he's Section 31 because those Starfleet guys, those warriors that were there, those fighters that were there,
Yeah, they
they
weren't wearing
knew
Section
him.
31 badges.
No, and they knew him, especially the one dude. He
Mhm.
knew. He's like, come out in the field with us. Bring the Protocol 12.
Yeah,
You're
they
the
know him
ultimate.
personally. Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I guess he could have been associated with Section 31 at one point, but he
Because that
obviously
guy even
wasn't just that.
says, right? Mbenga says, Starfleet already asked, and I said no. He says, I know. That's why they sent me.
Right. Yeah,
You know what I
exactly.
mean? There
Yeah.
was clearly
Yeah.
a relationship between the Andorian and him,
So that's what I'm saying.
right?
So I don't get Section
Uh,
31 vibes because that's supposed to all be happening sort of behind the scenes. And it's clear that everybody knows Mbenga's reputation and what he's done in the past. So
unless
uh,
that group that they're sending in is also Section 31, and we just don't know about it.
I
I don't
think we're
know.
just operating too much out in the open to be. I know you really want it to be
Maybe.
Section 31. I'm
No,
getting this
not
sense I don't
particularly.
think it is. I hope it's not. But I mean, again, I have a feeling if the show goes on long enough, we'll find it. We're not done with our boy Mbenga yet for sure. So
We are not.
yeah.
100%, we're not done. I don't think it makes him any worse of a person, in the sense that I think he's still going to be a great doctor. He's still going to be a great crew member. I think, his values are still there, even though there's clearly some dodgy shit going on. And I mean, I don't know. It was a weird play for sure. We've never seen anybody in Starfleet specifically just cold blooded murder someone. Have we seen anybody else?
Well, I got to be honest. So I just rewatched it, and there is more of dialogue than I initially remembered being between them.
Yeah.
It's not as clear cut. So Ra is saying, "Please let me have a chance to help you heal." He puts his hand on him, and Mbenga says, "I said no." Ra says, "Don't be stupid." Mbenga calls him a war criminal. Ra says, "Don't you see it?" And Mbenga says, "Get your hands off me." And Ra says, "You're so selfish for a human." And then Mbenga says, "Don't." Right before Ra fells, Mbenga says, "Don't." So clearly there is some type of it's Mbenga just didn't turn around, pick up the knife, and stab him. That's not what happened.
So
I don't
maybe he
think
goes
people
for
are
the
that
knife. Who
upset.
knows?
I don't think people are that upset that Mbenga at the end of the day ends up killing the ambassador. I think people are more upset that they sit in Pike's office and lie about it. That's I think
Mm-hmm.
more the turnaround from this is that's clearly his dagger that he brought to kill Mbenga. That's a flat out
And
lie. Like he just lies to the
yeah,
captain's face, and it's a cover up. So I think
yeah.
that's where we start talking and tinkering with the character of Mbenga and Chapel. That's not
Mm-hmm.
something a Starfleet officer should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Is especially about something that they're not covering up who ate the Sunday pot roast. They're covering up the murder of a Klingon ambassador. So it's or the killing, I should say, of a Klingon ambassador. So, anyways, that's a rabbit hole. I get it. Guys, if you have an opinion on this, please share it with us down below because it sounds like we're not quite on the same page and maybe we're not sure because we still don't really know what happens. And I have a
We
feeling
don't.
they're going to leave it ambiguous. They shot it that way for a reason. I don't think we're ever going to truly know what
You
went
don't think
down.
so? I feel
don't
like
think
we're going to
so.
get a flashback one day
I
that's going to
don't
come
know that
back
we
and
will.
show us that
I think they
Mbenga
shot it that way
actually.
for a reason. But like I said, more for me, the crux of it is the lie that it's predicated on now. A lie
Yeah.
that those two have to carry moving forward. Just
Now,
7:15,
are
so.
they portraying this lie to not taint what the ambassador stood for and the peace talks with the Klingons?
Maybe partly.
Because now if everybody finds out that Mbenga is the butcher of Jagal, all of a sudden, anything that Ra did has no merit.
True.
And the peace talks fall because now it's actually a human that killed all these Klingons, not
Yes.
a Klingon,
Not a
right?
Klingon. No. Agreed. But it's also a little bit, maybe more than a little bit, of Mbenga saving his own skin. I mean, at the end of the day, if he admits that he's actually the butcher of Jagal, and then there was a struggle, and then he stabbed Ambassador Ra, there's no out from Mbenga. He's going to get dishonorably discharged. He's probably going to get civilly charged. He's probably going to end up on Rurapente or whatever. Like, he's going to be, shit's going to go really,
Ended up on
really
Rurapente?
wrong for Mbenga. So yeah, I don't. Of course, if it gets out he's the butcher and then he killed, you're telling me the Klingon High Command wouldn't want him extradited and tried in a Klingon court, and he's going to be totally on Rurapente? Are you kidding me? Star Trek 6, They Discover Country, for those of you that don't know, it's the Klingon prison planet that McCoy and our boy Kirk went to. Yeah, honestly. So I don't know. I'd be curious. I hope you're right. I hope it does come up in a future episode. But these two are going to have to carry the weight of their lie moving forward, which I know will bring them closer together, but it will also distance them from everybody else.
Maybe that's the whole point.
Maybe, I don't know. But dude, can we talk real quick? I know we're at it was a brilliant episode. It was such a fantastically shot, acted, portrayed, the seamlessness of the flashbacks and then the current timeline stuff. What if
the assault suits?
Oh,
the assault suits were amazing.
I don't get the flashlights. The flashlights don't make any sense to me on the assault suits whatsoever. Hey, everybody, I'm right here. Shoot me. Hi, I'm right here. Hi, how you doing? The flashlight is so dumb. But the suits themselves look badass. But just the way this episode was crafted, it was just crafted so well. This to me is like you can tell we're getting later in the fluff is a little even, you know what I mean? Like we're getting later in the season. Like this is, no matter what order they shot this in, this show has to come in. This episode has come later in the season because it's that good and that well done. So, anyways, yes. Sorry.
Fantastic episode. We've got 3 more to go, folks. Make sure you stay tuned because there's going to be the musical next week and then the season finale. That's right.
Oh, episode 9 is the musical, and then episode 10 will be probably the Gorn, is what we're assuming. And by the way, guys, just so you know, there's only 2 of these left, but come September, Lower Deck season 4 back on the air. So we'll be taking probably a little bit of a break on the after show, but don't you worry, Nana. We'll be back. We're absolutely going to be doing this for Lower Decks. Both JS and I love that show. You should too. Hopefully after the crossover, you've checked it out and love it like we do. So we're going to be talking season 4 of Lower Decks.
The first few episodes of the first season are hard to get through.
Yes.
I'm going to say that. Lower Decks, you have to give it a chance.
Power through. You'll be fine. You're going to regret it. Trust me. You're going to fall in love with people. It's going to be great.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, I think that's going to be it for this week. Again, let us know below what you thought of this week's episode. If there are any other shows you want us to do after shows about, let us know. I mean, we're open to watching new shows. I for sure. I think that will be it for this week, though. Make sure you stay geeky, everybody, and may the force be with you.
Fuck.